Hello everyone, welcome to my studio. My studio is in downtown Long Beach. It's one of my very favorite places. What we're going to be doing today is just an introductory painting. I wanted to have you just, now that you have your supplies, to get them out and try to use them to do a painting. This painting tutorial should be super easy, super basic. The point is for you to learn a couple different things. I want you to learn how to thin paint, what I mean by that and how you do that. I want you to learn how to blend color together. In this tutorial, we will be using acrylic, so that's going to be a little difficult, but I'm hopeful we can do it. And then the third thing is I want you how to do the opposite of blending, which is how to have edges between your color or between your paint strokes. Again, with acrylics, this is easy to do. The edges part is easy, the blending part's a little difficult. We will be painting this painting today. It's very simple and basic. I'm almost embarrassed how basic and simple it is for a college class. But again, I just wanted you to experience something pretty easy. This will not be graded. You will get credit just for trying, okay? Trying to think what else I have to tell you. You're using acrylics, so the blending part will be difficult. So what that means is we're going to start by painting the sky, and we're going to have to try to go pretty quickly at this point to just to blend the color together while it's wet, and then we can take our time later on. So what you want to do is get your paint ready, get your paint out, get your canvas out, draw some hills on it, and we'll get started. Okay.
Okay everyone, we're going to start with the painting already drawn on. We're going to have sky at the top. This is my palette. I have titanium white, cadmium yellow or lemon yellow, cadmium red hue, alizarin crimson, and phthalo blue, all laid on my palette. They are on the edges of the palette, and the middle is for mixing. I also have water and some brushes and a rag. I also have a spray bottle. I like to squirt my palette just every once in a while so the colors don't dry out. I'm going to begin with the sky, so I'm looking for a big brush, a number 8 brush, and I'm going to start with that pink color. So I'm mixing a lot, tons of white, and just a little bit of the alizarin crimson, a little of the pink. And I'm just going to mix it really well. And then thinning out paints means adding water to the paint. I add water so the paint isn't so stiff and it's a little easier to move around. We usually, our first layer of paint on the canvas, we will always thin it out. And again, with acrylics, that just means I add a little water to the paint. I'm just trying to paint the top 1/3 of my sky. And what I'm looking at here is the color as I put it on. And then also I'm making sure I have that canvas, like I have no white showing, no small white bumps coming through. Now I'm going to switch to the yellow. So I'm just grabbing a lot of white, a little yellow, and I'm also dipping back into my earlier pink mixture to kind of mix a yellowish pink color all together. And then I'm just going to put that color down, and once again I get my brush and I blend back and forth. This is how we blend color. We just blend back and forth while the color is wet to blend it all together. I'm trying to get this yellow a little more intense. When color is dry, it's not able to be blended, so I have to work like crazy while this is wet. And I'm going back, maybe, I'm still not sure about that pink, you know, but I can go crazy on these pink and this yellow color while it's wet is where I want to like really try to finish that part. Now I'm going to mix the orange, so I'm going to use a different red and the yellow, and again, tons of white. And there's another phenomenon that we should talk about. We mix a color and it may look one way on our palette. We don't really know how that color is till it's on the painting. So you want to mix a color and then put it on your painting and kind of move your head back and see how it looks. And then again, our basic idea of blending, if the color's wet, we go crazy stroking our brush back and forth. Just trying to remix that color. I have a bad habit. I don't mix big enough puddles. So you want to be generous with yourself and mix the color, especially if you're going to try to blend it. You know, you don't want to spend a lot of your time mixing paint. So you just want to start by mixing a lot of paint and then just going back and forth. You could thin your paint out, like if you think the paint on top is starting to dry, you can add some water to the paint you're using and thin it out a little more. I'm just trying to cover all the white part here. That little postcard is one of my favorite paintings. It's a Contormo painting from Florence, Italy. Okay, the sky's pretty much done. Like I could work a little more, maybe just try to get that yellow a little more in the middle. But kind of have to be careful because if it's dry, it's going to tend to go streaky. So you just do your best. There's a couple ways to cheat to blend color in acrylic. You could just barely have paint on your brush and kind of go over the old painting, just putting a thin layer on top. But for the most part, the way to blend acrylic paint is just work quickly while it's wet. Now I'm going to go on to the hills. So for the hills, I'm going to use phthalo blue and some white and also a little bit of the yellow because it's actually kind of like a green color, like a toothpaste green color. I need more white paint. So the other thing you have to find out is that paint has different tinting strength, we say. Some paint is more powerful than the other. Phthalo blue is a really powerful blue, so you won't need much of it. You'll need a lot of white, a little phthalo blue, and a tiny bit of yellow. And we just put the color on and then we look at it. It's actually pretty good. So then I'm going to go over and do the other side of the hill. Now this is the strength of acrylics right now because I can put this color down and my sky, it dries so quickly that I don't have to worry too much about messing up here. Like when, if you were doing oils, you'd have to be really careful about how you place this color because you wouldn't want to disturb the orange from on top. But acrylics dries so quickly that you don't have to worry so much about that. And then the other thing to say is these are just hills, so if they're not perfect, it's totally fine. You can like change your drawing at this point if you wanted to. You don't have to keep those hills how they were. About this time, I'm hoping you're starting just to relax and have fun. Sometimes we worry too much about being perfect or anything like this. This is your painting. Do what you want. Okay, now we're going to go and we're going to try to mix that medium thing of hill, the medium layer of hills. We're going to use our exact same colors, phthalo blue, a little bit of, titanium white and yellow, but you will need more blue for this. We want it stronger color. Test a little, see how it is. Again, our palette is not the final word. It's how the paint looks on the canvas that makes us readjust that. This color is pretty good. And I'm just trying to go with my original drawing, but not be too hung up on it. And then the other thing to say is the thing that does matter is the color, and then also the smoothness of that edge. So sometimes if we're insecure, we can make these little tiny short marks, but when you're doing the top edge of that hill, you want to try to make a nice continuous mark. And I'm just trying to fill this in. Paint is very forgiving, whether it's acrylic or oil. So it doesn't matter if you went outside of the lines here. It's all fine. You're going to cover it up. Okay, it's time for my last layer of mountains. These are the darkest. So I really want a dark color here. So I will not use any white whatsoever. It's mainly phthalo blue. I'm adding a little of that yellow, and I'm actually adding a little of the alizarin crimson also. I'm trying to get a really dark color here. Now here's the thing about trying to be smooth and continuous when you do that top edge of the mountain. And don't stress about this. You know what you're doing. You're just doing like curvy hills. If it's not perfect, it's fine. Again, I'm hoping that this is just a fun thing for you where you use paint. Later on, we'll be worried about like the color and the drawing aspect. Does it need to be lighter? Does it need to be darker? We're not worrying about any of that today. We're just trying to get paint on a canvas and see how that works. And remember, you can add more water. You can change your brush if you would want. You're just trying to make an opaque layer. For me, it's a little difficult because this phthalo blue is a little transparent. Okay, I took a break from my phthalo blue and I'm putting in a moon. I'm just getting my small brush, size 0 or your number 2 brush, and I'm using pure white just to do a C shape to put in a moon there. You could do a light layer first and kind of rub it with your hand or thin out your paint and just lightly apply it and then put thicker paint. Giving that some time to dry, and then I don't like my last layer how like streaky it is, so I'm going back into that and I'm just putting a second layer on that dark hills, and this is how we would darken it acrylic. We just let it dry a little bit and then we go back and add another layer as we need. It's pretty simple and basic. Once again, I'm using those same colors I used before, so that's mainly phthalo blue, a little bit of the yellow, and a tiny bit of alizarin crimson.
Okay, I wanted to show you guys how to clean up your acrylic paint when you're finished painting. So the first thing is that the painting itself is going to dry pretty quickly, like within 10 minutes. So once that's dry, I can go and move it wherever I want. I would just put it somewhere safely away where other people won't mess with it in your house. The next thing is our palette. Because acrylic paint dries quickly, I'm going to totally clean off my palette. If I have a piece of paper, like if I'm using palette paper, I can just crumble up that palette paper and throw away. If you're using like a metal cookie sheet or some kind of piece of glass, you can get a palette knife and just scrape off your mixed color onto a paper towel. It is important that you keep your palette smooth so that you can use it again. So I would not want to keep these paint globs on my palette without scraping them off. They will dry, and once the paint is dry on your palette, it's so hard to come off. It kind of breaks my heart to just throw away this huge glob of paint, but that's what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to use it as a learning experience to put out less paint. I'm a very cheap person. I don't like throwing anything away. Okay, so it doesn't look like it, but this palette is now all nice and smooth, so it's ready for next time. So, did you see that? It gel all on my finger. Ooh. Thick paint. We want thick paint on the canvas, not on our hands. Okay, so my palette's good to go. I'm just going to put it away so people won't mess with it. And then the last thing to do is I'm going to get my brushes. I'm going to press down on them. I'm going to get them out of the water. And then I'm just going to rinse my brushes with soap and water, making sure I clean them really well, and then just leave them out to dry. And I'm all done. Acrylic paint cleanup is so easy. Okay, thanks you guys.